Hey up and welcome to the Temple of Bleh podcast, episode AE. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Normally I'm diving down the history of Roadrunner Records and doing other stupid shit like that, but sometimes I get to interview shithole bands with new releases, which is what I'm doing today. So today I'm talking to Paul Mazurkiewicz from Cannibal Corpse, where we'll be talking about the new album Violence Unimagined, which is available on April 16th. I'm going to say up top, get the pre-orders in, buy the art book, get everything, support the scene. Let's jump straight into it. Paul Mazurkiewicz, 1, 2, fuck shit up. Taking the time, dude.
No problem.
My name's Jim, and welcome to the Temple of Bleh podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, man. So, Violence Unimagined. Fuck me, dude. I don't want to spoil a lot of like the musical stuff for people, because this is going to go out probably early April, and I don't know what's within my gift to tell people. But let's just start from the start and let's just work our way through. So how's the press cycle been, man? This is a different circumstance for Cannibal Corpse as a beast, right?
Yeah, definitely for everybody, obviously. But yeah, it's been good. You know, I mean, it's like any other release. Obviously, you know, you get a song out there, you get everyone excited. You start doing some press, and everybody's doing it, so that's good. Everyone's talking and. But it's been a whirlwind, of course. But it's good to good to finally get this ball rolling, though, because obviously a little delayed in the release of the record and all that, but it's good to get it out. Hopefully, well, definitely next month and all that. And but the press has been good, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, man, it's a different setting, isn't it? I mean, there's probably less sort of traveling out to TV spots or, doing Eddie Trunk shows and things like that. It kind of lowers the stakes a bit. And I think that's good for conversation. It lets people have more honest dialogue, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I believe so too. You're right, though. You are correct.
Yeah, man. So onto the album itself. I mean, in recent interviews, you've talked about age slowly becoming a factor. I'm here to say, fuck that, man. It's not slowed you down one fucking bit. This is a busy album. I mean, but what's going to happen once the album comes out is you're going to see a flux of people on YouTube doing the cover videos, because it is busy as fuck. It's 40 minutes of just, the business happening. I mean, I know Eric had a history with the band previously, but is his influence on the actual writing process the most prominent part of that?
I think it's I mean, obviously the way we write, at first I appreciate the kind words there. I mean, yeah, I definitely stepped it up on this one, it nearly killed me, but hey, you only live once. But I mean, the way we write these days, and we've had for the better part of 20 years, it's a lot of individual writing, so Alex will write his songs, Rob writes his songs. Well, of course, Eric comes in and he writes his songs, so they have to be in the vein of Cannibal, of course, so he's not writing for Hate Eternal or Morbid Angel, or he's writing for Cannibal Corpse now. So he knows that, and he's gonna, fit the style in there and do it, what his take would be. So yeah, his songs are pretty intense, you've heard them. And, the three that he wrote are pretty fast songs. And I mean, other than the Condemnation, Contagion, it's got some fast stuff in there, but it's a pretty technical song. So I don't know if that really has a lot to do with it. I mean, he definitely brings new blood in, of course, which is always exciting, but I think when it comes down to it, Alex was going to write what he was going to write, and Rob's going to write what he's going to write, regardless of who's, in the band. Right. I think everybody's just kind of stepping it up in a way, and then I'm just adding a little bit more to these songs, So, but yeah, I mean, we're just trying to get better as songwriters as we go. And I think we've done that. We're obviously always feel that we're getting better at our instruments, and, try to do the best we can do. So, this is just really the next chapter in the story, regardless, like I said, of who's in the band, kind of a thing, but yeah, I mean, I tie it all together. Yes, because obviously I got to play on everybody's songs. Right. And, and I felt that, you only, like I said, you only live once, and, we're probably closer to the end than we are to the beginning at this point. So you just gotta, you want to do the best you can do, I guess, and I really wanted to take my drumming to another level. and I feel that I have, and obviously you do as well. So that's good. I think the fans exactly are going to see that, hear that, and it'll be a good thing. But like, yeah, it's not getting any easier. That's for sure.
To make a comparison though, man, when Murderous Rampage kicks in, I felt Where Eagles Dare on Peace of Mind, just that boom, boom. I was like, fuck, it's kicking in, it's kicking off, and it really starts the momentum for the whole album. And the mix as well. It's like, maybe this is Eric's influence, but there's a lot more mid. And maybe I'm maybe chatting shit, man, but I feel like the guitars themselves, they carry themselves really well because they've got a lot more space. And that really helps on the chugginess and distinguishing between the two leads. And I think it hits. So that's
awesome.
Are you at liberty to divulge which songs were Eric's?
Yeah, no. It's I appreciate the kind words, right? I mean, Eric, obviously he's more involved in the mixing and the producing, right? So those are going to be things that he's going to be able to know more. And I just play the drums here, write a couple songs lyrically, and and everyone else is doing their parts, right? But yeah, no, we of course want to do the best mixing possible and make everything sound as distinct as we can, and try to do better than we did on the last record. We're always trying to strive for that. So but no, Eric wrote Condemnation, Contagion, Ritual, Annihilation, and Over Torture. And and I think really when you listen, you can almost kind of tell, I mean, everyone's got their little bit at this point, Rob's got his style and Alex has his style, kind of a thing. And and those three were Eric's songs. So
flow.
They're good songs, so but I'm cool analogy on the Murderous Rampage too as well. I mean, it was just, to me, that was a song that, obviously you're always trying to come up with something that's going to start the album, right? And not that everyone may be listening to it in order anymore these days. I would hope they would. I mean, we're still old school in that sense, but we felt Murderous Rampage was a good opener to the record, just kind of kicks it all in, sets the tone, so,
totally, man.
So that's cool that you feel that way as well.
The flow's so cool as well. I mean, Condemnation, Contagion, it comes in straight after the current single, which is Inhumane Harvest. And I fucking love it because Inhumane Harvest is kind of like, it's the Cannibal Corpse brand. It's like, here's what you're declaring. The consistency is still here. The brutality is still here. And then we kick straight into the intro to that song, which is, being a younger man, I had a massive Lamb of God vibe, big sort of breakdowny, sort of crunchy vibe, and it was unexpected coming straight off of Inhumane Harvest, and it was just so cool, the change of pace. It flowed really well with Over Torture as well. It's just a compliment Eric, I guess, and blowing smoke up his ass from 3,000 miles away. That the weird delays on George's voice to sort of like act as a percussive like bounce off the next riffs, and then that weird bass interplay at the end. It's fucking brilliant, man. I don't know if you can tell I've had a cracking day listening to this.
It's good, man. I'm glad. It's great to hear. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I mean, we're hoping for these reactions, of course, when it all comes out. I mean, so far so good. Obviously, everybody's heard Inhumane Harvest, and seem to really dig the song, and yeah, we can't wait for everybody to hear the whole record. And we're hoping that we get the same reaction that you're giving for it. So and I'm thinking we may, because man, we feel we got a good record here. It's a good solid Cannibal Corpse record.
Yeah, man. I made a huge mistake though. I tried to count along too slowly, so it's not possible.
Oh yeah, dude, that one, talk about a mind bender. Yeah, that one is like, holy, that one really. It's not a fast song at all. It's one of the slowest ones on the record. But man, that one was so hard to learn, mentally, because it's speed wise, it's not hard at all. It's just, it came down to the mental aspect and the quick turnarounds, and just, man, that was a tough song for me to learn, man. And then once you got it down and everything, and you're playing, you're like, oh man, this is what an awesome song, But that's the mind of Alex for you. So
it starts in a false sense of security because you think you're listening to a thrash song, and then it folds, then it folds, and then it folds.
That's a good one, man. That one's going to take the listener, the fans, I think, a few listens to really grasp it, which is what you want. That's good. Some songs, of course, are more straightforward. You catch them right away and you feel it. And then others, it just takes some time, and that's the cool thing about being diverse about writing and everything, having songs like of all these kind of different kind of feels like that, which is awesome. And I think this album has that for sure. So.
It speaks against obviously Cannibal Corpse is an incredibly consistent beast, but within that there are many journeys and there are many paths that are trodden and taken around, and I think this record really, really reflects that. So well done.
Well, a great analogy on that, and I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
So typically the band will stay away from current events and will stay away from politics and things like that. All the songs are really nicely self-contained. I think that really speaks to the band's livelihood, legacy. It's timeless. You could even argue, the contentious things of 20 years ago getting banned in certain countries, everyone seems to have migrated more towards the side, kind of the less censorship side, the actual let's have an honest conversation side. But in that, keeping everything self-contained in their own way, you went into the studio about this time last year. Did you not sort of look up and go, lads, there's literally a fucking plague about to happen. Should we not try and incorporate this in any way?
Right. Well, that's a question that you'd have to ask Eric. I mean, he had that's kind of what the song Condemnation Contagion's about, a little bit. I mean, it obviously, our lyrics come together usually at the end, right. And then obviously we went into the studio about a month after the whole, everything hit the fan and all that. So I think Eric was writing his lyrics probably around that time. And he actually, it's loosely based on that, but definitely I think that was his inspiration more for something like this happening. It was just pretty intense and pretty crazy and, overall horrific in a different sense. Right. So yeah, because exactly, we usually don't tie much in the sense of anything realistic, we touch on it here and there. But really the two songs will be on this record, Contagion being one of them, and actually Follow the Blood that Rob wrote. When you end up reading the lyrics to that one, that's more of like a wartime story. And we never really delve into that, like actual, army, with guns and things of that nature. That's usually not what we write about at all, So it was cool to have something different in there. If we're going to tie in some reality, so be it here and there, I guess, as long as it's brutal and intense and horrific, like it is. So, but yeah, I mean, Eric, like I said, loosely, pretty much based Contagion on what's happening.
Cool. Okay, I think I've spoiled enough of the actual album for people now. Let's move on slightly in terms of production-wise things. So Alex, well, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So Alex recorded his bass lines at home off the back of the pandemic. It's completely seamless, and it's to be expected these days, I imagine. But did that change any of your sort of conceived notions of how to go about a record? Would you go about it differently next time? Would you think there's more flexibility in terms of delivering the product off the back of that experience?
Yeah. I mean, you can do it, which is good, obviously. I mean, you really don't want that to happen. Obviously, Alex would have flew down and he would have been here. I mean, just the fact that he was able to do that out of anybody in the band, he's the one, he has those capabilities and he can do it, Now, if it was somebody else, it might not have worked, So we're just lucky that it did. So I guess just the fact that that it can happen. Now, I would think, right, the next album comes up, though, that's not what you're going to want to do. I mean, I'm sure he'd want to be here. I mean, the only downfall for Alex not being here was just kind of really fine tuning his songs, I mean, because he made it down in the beginning of March. Before we went into the studio just to kind of go over some things. And that's when we actually did our photo shoot, which actually ended up being pretty lucky because otherwise we might not have really got a proper photo shoot, if we would have waited till April or so, which, a lot of times we've done, we're in the studio and then, hey, let's take one day and do the photo shoot, So we did it prior to the studio, which ended up being obviously the way to go because it might not have worked, but it was just kind of fine tuning his stuff, I mean, but then again, in this day and age, you've got, video and you got, you can work that way, even by, getting together that way to be able to kind of sort things out, so it all worked out. But right, in a perfect world, it would have been great for Alex to be here for the his tracks, and then maybe be here a little bit longer just to kind of go over. But exactly, what do we got here? We got a great product. You're not gonna, there's no, we can't say anything like, oh man, this happened, we didn't do this because of that. No, we got everything that needed to get done, and it turned out great. So we're just fortunate for that.
It was a lossless experience in that you lost nothing from it. However, it would have been cool if your mate was down playing with you.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and another crazy aspect of this was the fact that once it all hit, we were then, of course, in the studio, and then you're worried about like, well, what's going to happen here? Because this is, got to look long term. Now, are we going to be able to get this album out when we're supposed to? And as we were recording, normally we're allotting ourselves maybe about 2 months, 2.5 months for recording. Mm-hmm. So once we commenced and we started talking with management and everything, well, we realized we're probably not going to be able to release it when we want to, which in essence gave us a little more time to work on the record, which we wouldn't have had, because Eric ended up not having anything going on at the studio, because of course anybody that was booked ends up falling off, and then we were like, hey, if we're not going to release it when we're supposed to, and the record label don't need it like when they're thought they would, well, let's spend a little extra time on it. So we actually spend a little more time, which ended up maybe being a good thing, work on the mix a little more or what have you. So the pandemic helped in that way. Otherwise, we would have had to have been done a lot sooner, and it would have still turned out great. But yeah, having a little bit extra time may have been, may have been helpful.
It's interesting how the pandemic's affected the release schedule, because you'd have thought, all right, well, to produce a record, you need some consoles, you need some band members, you need X, Y, and Z, but it's not a massive team. But what I've gathered is it's nothing to do with the production of the album that gets delayed. It's the distribution cycle, especially these days, because there's more money in metal than there ever has been. And it's all thanks to the pre-orders and the vinyl sets and the bundles and all these wonderful things. So it's a perfect segue to talk about the art book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Has that happened before?
No, that hasn't. That was great. It was a good, cool thing that we did there. I mean, we had the idea of Vince, kind of doing it in a piece of art per song, every song, a company piece like that, and then actually, I think it was probably Metal Blade's idea to do the art book thing, because we knew just in the booklet itself, like in the CD or what have you, okay, you got some bonus artwork in there, that can go next to the lyrics or whatever, and you get a little extra piece, which is cool. And then I think it was just their idea of going, hey, let's make this cool art book kind of situation, which I was like, yeah, makes complete sense. We got a lot of art, more art than we've ever had for a release, so why not, So that was a good idea, I think, and I think the fans are going to really dig that. Yeah.
It's interesting how the art, Vince's art, is joined at the hip with the music. It's almost weird how it's taken so long to sort of accommodate it in a release cycle as it is. But let's talk about the artwork for a minute, because one thing I fucking love, it's a perfect example. The story of the artwork is captured very, very well on a website, so I'm not going to repeat it, everything that was on there, heaviestofart.com. So check out, everyone watching this, check that out, because it's a really great story. But I'll touch on a couple of things that maybe should fill some gaps. It's an example of kind of engineering the extreme, which is deliberately go too far and have to remove things, as opposed to under delivering and building it up. So the original artwork is let's call it a woman eating a baby. It's fucking great. It's really badass. It's really visceral. And it kind of made me feel a bit uneasy. Maybe it's recent fatherhood on my part. But was that the first time the Metal Blade have asked for a revision of an artwork submission?
Well, yes and no, I guess, because obviously we always just want to have one piece. And then back in the early days where we're putting out, like, say, Tomb of the Mutilated after Butchered at Birth, when they knew, well, hey, we're going to have some issues here, So of course, what ends up happening, Tomb of the Mutilated, well, you got the regular cover, and then you got the censored art, So we kind of ended up knowing that was going to end up happening for most of our career here, So hence, that's why we have a lot of the releases have the censored artwork as well. well, you know. I mean, and there's some that didn't have the censored art, like Wretched Spawn, where you kind of got to make one up, you know. I know like the German version and ended up being like just one like corner of the album or something like that, or Vile. It just ends up being like the guy's face close up, you know. So we only had the one piece, and then of course there had to be a piece. So, but man, this time around, I don't know why. I think we should have known that it was probably going to end up being this way, but it was like, let's just have one piece of art. That's the way it should be. What's the big deal? You know, it's just music. It's just a fictional art here. So when we had the original version with the, you know, the woman and the baby and all that, it was like, okay, here's the cover, you know? And then of course what happens, right? You send it to the record label and they're immediately going, oh, it's awesome. Of course. But you know, we're going to need something censored here because, you know, Germany's not going to take it, this record store, you know, this market, all that, you know. So instead of course, doing what we could have done, well, yeah, you take a piece of it or something like that. It was like, oh, let's just make up another, you know, the censored version and have Vince draw another piece accompanying that. And that's what we did. So we should have known better and probably just did it right off the bat, knowing if we're going to have this brutal cover like that it's going to cause some, you know, problems. But, you know, I was really hoping it wasn't. It'd be just nice to have it'd just be nice to have the release in all aspects, you know, just there you go. This is the cover. But, you know, hey, what can you do? You got another cool piece of art. I think the censored version turned out awesome as well. And it's pretty intense. So it just ends up, you know, being a cool thing to have another piece, but should have known better.
I think the end product is like wonderfully minimalist anyway. As in, like, minimalist, maybe the wrong word, because it's not minimalist in the conventional sense. It's just not big scale landscapes. It's just brutality. But
right.
when you read that article, which I've just pitched to everyone, heaviest of art, for me, it established a canon. So buy the art book bundle, because you'll see the earlier version. And for me, the current art, the approved artwork, is just the uncensored one but zoomed in. So in my head, all that stuff is going on around it.
Yeah.
I want to think of it that way. It still has that same sort of bite.
Well, that's what it is. It ties it in, really. If you know both pieces, you're going to see the censored version and go, okay, well, basically this is, you know, just a profile of what's basically happening in the main picture here. You know, it's just cool to tie it in that way.
Yeah, it's badass, man. I want to take a quick retrospective on something, which I'd usually try and avoid, but one of the little side projects I've been working on is I've been working on a history of Roadrunner Records. I know that's nothing to do with Cannibal, but I'm now at a point where I'm at Morrisound and I'm trying to contextualize, because again, I'm a young man, I'm trying to contextualize their impact on the entire scene. And I spoke to Tom Morris, and the problem with Tom Morris is he's so fucking humble that when I ask him, were you the first people to give a shit about death metal, and that's why it sounds so fucking good, and that's why Morrisound was the centerpiece of that world, his answer is, maybe not. Maybe we just, maybe we just liked it at the time or something like that. But I'm just wondering if you could give me a bit of an education as to what appealed you in the first place to Morrisound. Was it I've heard things about the drum sound and the drum room and Scott's approach to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it's looking back, it's just like amazing, right? Morrisound is a vital part of death metal, and did so much in the early days, right? And it was really just Scott, obviously. We wanted to work with Scott Burns. I remember when we first heard, I don't think it was recorded at Morrisound, but when we heard Beneath the Remains, when we heard Sepultura Beneath the Remains and Scott produced it, we were just like blown away by that. It just sounded so huge and the drums sounded great. And it was just a great production, man. We were just very happy with that production. We just really wanted to work with Scott Burns, and then I think at the time, Obituary, of course, did, worked there, Terrorizer, and, things were done there, but we wanted to work with Scott, and that was vital. That was key, so of course, him working at Morrisound, that put us in Morrisound, and then yeah, it just blew up from there basically. You know, I mean, with the releases that they said put out with Obituary, and then Death, and and then everybody else coming down there to use the studio and all that. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. It was Scott's work. I can't really pinpoint exactly where. I know. I mean, I love the drum sound on Beneath the Remains, but it wasn't like that was the drum sounds that were really being produced in Morrisound. Maybe I don't know. Like I said, all we knew is we wanted to work with Scott, and we did, and we're happy. He did a great job for us, of course, on the 5 that he did, and it was an amazing time to be a part of the Morrisound legacy. And I think exactly, Jim and Tom are going to be that way about the studio and all that, and that's the way they are. Great guys, of course, and yeah, it was awesome times, man. But yeah, like I said, it was really just, man, we got to work with Scott Burns.
Yeah, man. I heard that you play hockey, ice hockey, as a way to keep yourself fit, which keeps you on top of your game. I made this pitch to Brian Slagle, and I'm going to make it a pitch to yourself as well. Underwater hockey is a real sport. It's a lot easier on the joints, and because it's all resistance based, it's a real thing. I play with my local team, and our oldest member, who actually plays with us in the league, 80, turned 80 this year.
Wow. Nice. Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know there was an underwater hockey league or underwater hockey, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, anything in water is going to be an amazing workout, of course. I mean, the resistance and all that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can give it a try. A lot of swimming, a lot of water down in Florida, but man, I don't know. I obviously love hockey in the pure sense of being on the ice, and being from close to Canada, being from Buffalo, and growing up on playing outside like that, on skating, and going fast, and that's a big part of it to me, is zooming around on skates and everything, and just the physicality of the sport and all that. I mean, it's I love it. It's in me. I've been playing since I was 5 years old, so. But yeah, you're right though. Obviously, it's less strenuous on the joints, and less physical, I guess, and not as fast. So you could probably play it until you're 80 years old. But it's interesting. I'll have to look into it. Maybe there's something happening in Florida. Who knows?
I think it is quite widespread now. I think because it was a British sport. And I know the Commonwealth countries, as usual, like your Australias and New Zealands, are all fucking amazing at everything that British people invent. And I know that America has a team, but I'm not quite sure how widespread it is.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. So yeah.
But dude, I think I've given you enough time to go for a cup of tea before your next interview. Thanks very much for taking the time. This will probably go out early April. I can't remember what my embargo is, but. Awesome. The best of luck. It's a shit hot album. It kicks tits. It's going to blow your fucking brains out. It's brilliant. Well done.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words and all that. And, just hope we can play for all the fans and be out your way sooner than later,
Yeah, man.
So, all right.
See you on the road.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Take care.
All the best. You too, man.
Good talk. All right. Bye-bye.